Hello there, guys. Welcome to Australia's next edition of the Cooking Zoom WOD. We need to come up with a name with it, actually. As soon as I said that, I was like, this thing needs a name. So I'm not quite sure. You can't really call it a cook WOD or a Zoom WOD or something. We might just call it two lads and a bagel or something like that.
I'm
So
all right with that.
with taking some time out, we were able to kind of like have a chin wag about some sort of like meals that we can still keep in mind that members at Australia or anyone who's following the channel can give a go, which is quite easy. The food's accessible and it's covering lots of different choices and blends, which like vegans and vegetarians and even meat eaters can try out. So what one do you have for us today, chef?
So I'm gonna make some like barbecue pulled jackfruit. Now, if you don't know what jackfruit is, it's like imagine like a really big, like green spiky watermelon. But inside this watermelon, there's like a kind of fibrous flesh, which when you cook it down and kind of shred it, it looks like pulled meat, pulled pork, pulled chicken,
Mm-hmm.
but obviously it's not meaty. It's really actually really readily available now. It's kind of like it's kind of like a slow introduction. It's big in like kind of Far East. Um, but yeah, I started to adopt it. It's a really good meat substitute because it does have like a nice fleshy feel to it. But without being like an unnatural something like not like unnatural, but not like being a tofu, which you'd have to like cure or curd it, or like seitan. But if you know what seitan is, it's basically like polished gluten.
All right.
That which is like it's quite a long-winded process to do it. But you do end up with like a kind of meat-ish texture, but you need a lot of other flavour and stuff into it. The really good
Okay.
thing about jackfruit is you can get it canned like pretty readily available now.
Nice. But that was going to actually be one of my questions was where would you be able to source that? Say, for example, would it be available within like a local grocers or would
Yeah,
it
you
be
should be
something
able to
that
get it
you'd
in like
have to check
Asda
out?
and like other supermarkets like that, man. I'll just show you like so it comes in like chunks, right?
Nice.
If
Okay.
you'll be able to see this, I pull this apart, it's like really fine and fibrous.
Yeah, I'm not gonna lie, like at the start it looks like tuna.
Yeah, it does. It's got like a kind of pinkish look to it. It
Yeah.
also tastes a little bit like lychee. It's got that kind of slight lychee sweetness, which
Oh,
is
I
an
love
unusual connection.
lychee.
So we're gonna like cook this down and turn it into a barbecue pork. Now I was gonna try and turn it into one singular full meal. However, I don't want to like pigeonhole that because this is going to be like a super versatile thing that you can do it with. So if I just turned it into a dish where I put it in a big bowl, a pile of rice, I wouldn't automatically want everybody to go and make that exact thing. Like
Okay.
if you want to bake a sweet potato and stuff it into that, or like substitute this into like a fajita, or
Nice.
just eat it on its own in a big pile, or
I
go wild with it if you want
I
to make it
would
into like little
never
barbecue
knock.
like slider burgers.
Yeah, I would never knock having like a pulled pork style thing
Yeah,
mixed in with like a brie with a nice little maybe like horseradish style thing.
yeah,
Like I've had sandwiches like made with like a brioche bun and
yeah.
maybe like one lettuce leaf and stuff. They do look incredible, but it's always when
That's
I
what you do.
taste jackfruit.
Yeah,
Normally when it's served to me, it's brown. So I would assume that there's some
yeah,
sort of sauce which is mixed through to give it that kind of pulled pork
yeah.
effect. Then
So there's a couple of different ways in which you can do like a barbecue style sauce. I'm gonna go down a kind of cleaner version, or not cleaner. I'm gonna use a tomato base
okay,
for it. Whereas a lot of some of the barbecue stuff, you might end up with like a kind of sugar and vinegar base, so it's very sweet, but also artificially sweet with a lot of sugar. Which I'm gonna add some sweetness with agave, but I want to avoid it just being like a solely like almost like barbecue sauce effect. I
mm.
want this to be something that's a bit more like not like user friendly, but like a bit more usable.
Awesome.
So
Yeah,
I've done
I'm
like a little,
totally down to see this.
I've done like a little Blue Peter style like here's stuff I chopped up earlier, just to kind of like not like speed this process up, but just make it like a little bit more fluid. So in my bowl, I have an onion, one red, one yellow pepper,
Mhm.
and they're not like super fine. They're pretty chunky. So, and then here's two cloves of garlic, half a chilli, and yeah, a good handful of thyme just chopped up. I will get a full recipe written down for this
Yeah.
and get it over to Andy so we can have it like attached to this log, or like the base of the video. So I've just got like a big fry pan with a little bit of olive oil in it. So I'm just going to warm this up, then add the veg in. I'm just going to cook this down quite slowly without colour. So I want it to burn or caramelise it, and you just want it to cook it nice and gently.
Okay.
And as that's going along, I'll talk to you about some of the other bits and pieces. But yeah, like jackfruit's one of these really interesting things. It's super sustainable as well. It grows really easily, really readily. You can feed like a family of about 10 people for like less than $1, like a US dollar, by buying a whole jackfruit and just utilising it.
That is
It has to be cooked before you buy it though, so like buying it canned is a lot easier because it has this like really sticky yellow sap.
Okay.
It has to be processed beforehand. This has literally just been like chopped up and boiled into a wee can. So I'm going to fry all this veg off and then just keep kind of chatting away for a little bit while this kind of cooks down gently.
Yeah.
This recipe's not going to be like, the thing about doing like a pulled pork, it's going to take like 6-7 hours to cook. It's going to have like a big joint of like pork shoulder or something similar. You're gonna have to like slow cook it for a long period of time, and then you're gonna have to pull it all apart, and then you're gonna have to like take the sauce out and thin it, like thicken it up and put it back in, so you've got your like end product. So it's quite a kind of long-winded process. Whereas this, I make this in like half an hour or less, like where I start to finish, including like chopping veg and stuff there.
Yeah.
I'm just gonna kind of like steam through the processes of this and give you an idea what we're working with. So that's gonna fry away. In the background, I have a tin of chopped tomatoes.
Yeah, chunky bad boys.
I have some smoked paprika.
I like the little tin. It looks like one of those little lush tins that you have.
A little bit of soy sauce.
Is that dark soy sauce? Is it?
That is light soy. You can use dark soy if you want to get a bit more colour into it. I prefer light because it's not as salty.
Okay.
I've got some agave syrup again. It's like
I swear to God, I need to get you a T-shirt with that agave bottle on it.
Just that. You just say chef in a bottle of agave. Some white wine vinegar. So that's like your kind of base flavours for like a barbecue sauce, especially when if you're making it at home, is lots of thyme. Believe it or not, it's a really good herb to help enhance that flavour. Smoked paprika is going to give you that smokiness, or if you want to use like liquid smoke, you can find that certainly put it in. Smoked paprika is going to add like a little bit of spice with the chilli and stuff in it as well, which is not a bad thing. It's just going to be like, it's going to be down to personal preference.
Every single time I've checked that though, it's never been punchy. It's actually been quite enjoyable, mainly because I think the paprika just gives it that nice taste, but then mixing it with the agave, it probably just kind of kicks off that tanginess, and it just kind of makes it a little bit as the smoky taste. So it takes away the hotness, but keeps the smokiness. Yeah.
Well, that's exactly it. So if again, like, I'm being a bit kind of fast and loose with some of the ingredients here. I'll get it more like dialed down recipe for it, but sometimes some of it will come down to personal taste. If you want it to be, less sharp, put in less vinegar. If you want it to be a little bit more sweet, balance out with a bit more agave or sugar. You add more salt to it, that's your preference. I'm not going to say, it has to be this exacting. And that's why I'm also not wanting to do it into an exact dish, because it means you can have a bit of a play. So like, veg just cooking down nice and gently. I'm going to throw the jackfruit in and just get start to kind of break it up a little bit. As I say, it isn't big chunks. And the more you kind of cook it and just mash it a wee bit, the more you're going to get that kind of stringy, fibrous look about the kind of texture.
You smash it in as you're stirring, or
and then I'm going to pick you up. I'm going to pick you up and show you what I'm doing here.
Yeah, I get that. Yeah, I can see that nicely.
So
what type of pan are you using as well? Because I feel
it's breaking down a little bit.
Yeah.
But the more you cook it, obviously, the more you start to actually simmer it with the sauce and stuff, that's going to break apart anyway.
So what I was meaning there, because see when you span the camera up and you were putting the panoramic down on it, I was quite interested to know the pans that you normally tend to use. What type of pan would you recommend? I know that sounds really cliche.
So this is a new pan that I got really recently, and I actually got it in Asda. It's a non-stick pan, but it's got a kind of sandpaper texture inside of it.
Okay.
And you can actually cook stuff in it without oil.
if you wanted to, because the non-stick effect is like really, really good. Whereas I'd always tend to put just a little bit of oil in it, because for me, like olive oil is a bit of a flavour enhancer as well. So
Yeah, I've tried mixing up things that I cook my food in. It's not consistently olive oil or coconut oil, because like actually one of my dishes I added in a little bit of water with salt mixed through with it, just to kind of get that kind of like lubricant in the pan. So then when I've thrown all my vegetables in, I was just whipping it around, making sure it wasn't sticking or anything. And I felt like it was more fresh. It was like the vegetables had a little bit more crunch to it. Like it wasn't like lathered in some sort of like oil.
Yeah.
But that's actually quite nice to know if it's like some sort of like, obviously things like a sandpaper.
Well, that's what I said before we did the first one, was like, you can use any oil you want. I mean, you might have a preference for avocado oil or rapeseed oil or something else. It's just going to come down to personal choice. But my go-to, just I think from my chefing background, has always been olive oil.
Mm-hmm.
So I've just kind of always stuck with it. Rightly or wrongly, I don't really know, but so what is my go-to one anyway? So
do you know how many what the macros are like with jackfruit? Like the macronutrients that you normally tend to get with a jackfruit. Do you get like a rough idea of like how many grams of protein that you get per?
I've not really delved into the macros of it.
Yes.
Hold on, let's just actually see like what we're kind of working with in terms of like.
Because you've used the whole can there. How heavy is the can?
This is a 400 gram tin.
Okay.
So per 100 grams, you're getting like 1.2 grams of protein, 3.2 grams of fiber. Really low in fat, like below half a gram of fat. Carbohydrate, you're sitting at like 3.6 grams of carbs.
Okay, so the ratio of protein
to about this as well is like all the veg that's in there anyway. Is like what I would. The veg is a carb for me. And veg is one of those ones that you can overload on. Like I sometimes go with the whole like palm, fist, cup, thumb ethos of eating, if you know that, and I'm sure you probably do. And if those of you don't, I'll explain it quite quickly. So you would have like a palm-sized piece of meat, a fist of veg, but you can go bigger than that, because if you're having like spinach or peppers or broccoli, stuff like that, although it's carbohydrate, it's not a dense carbohydrate. So I would always advise like eating more of that, because you're not going to not benefit from eating good veg.
Well, it is. It's just high in fiber. It's a fibrous fiber. So
complex carb, like a rice potato, and then a thumb of fat. Just a kind of basic breakdown. But for stuff like this,
back your thumb is then.
Like all the ingredients in this, it's basically just all veg, and it's all like non-high glycemic index vegetables as well. So you're not really going to be like overloading on like white potato or white starch pasta or rice or anything, unless you have it with a big heaping bowl of rice. But nothing wrong with a big heaping bowl of rice.
Would that be a good go-to meal choice for someone who was, say, for example, on the spectrum of the diabetic?
Right.
I had someone who asked me that. They were like, I'm a type 1 diabetic. What type of food should I try to aim for before I do some training? And I was like, that's an interesting question, because it completely depends on whether or not they're hypo or hyperglycemic. So obviously that's subject to the requirements of carbohydrates that you need pre or post or during your workout.
Exactly.
So the sounds of like the way that you get the the complexity of adding that type of vegetable sources that you're getting from, there's quite a mixed bag. It's high in the fiber source, but I think because it's got fibrous fibers as well, it's a slow releasing carbohydrate. You're not overloading too much on the grammage of carbohydrates, because like you said, there's not as many carbs coming from like potatoes, where everyone tends to kind of like dive towards, or they're going to go towards maybe a whole wheat based pasta sauce. Pasta sauce. I'm looking for. That's such a terrible accent that I have. It's not sauce, isn't like tomato ketchup sauce, but you must sauce your.
Right, so all I've done here now is thrown in my tin of tomatoes.
Okay.
And I'm going to take some hot water and put in like about half as much again of water into the can, just to rinse it out and put it into here. So that's going to give us like a kind of base of sauce. And I'm just going to turn the heat down nice and low. This is going to simmer away, but I'm going to get my flavours, my spices into here. So I'm going to use a teaspoon of the smoked paprika. So that's going to make it nice and smoky. I'm going to use, I think, probably just now 2 teaspoons of vinegar, just to give it that sour tang. I'm going to use 1 teaspoon of soy. And then I'm going to use about the same 2 teaspoons of agave. So I've got like equal vinegar to sugar, which is the way I kind of prefer to make it. Again, that's my personal preference. Feel free to change that. So now this is pretty much done. Like, I'm going to put a little bit of salt in it, and I'm just going to let it simmer and cook, and then we'll start getting this, like, we're already starting to see it. I'm going to pick you up again and let you see how this is starting to, like...
Yeah, because what's that been, like 10 minutes since...
Yeah, so simmer for 10 minutes. You want to just make sure your veg is tender. But you don't want to turn it to complete, paste. For use of a kind of horrendous amount of tasty vegetables. Yeah, so this is just going to cook away nice and gentle, and that's pretty much it. So I don't know how long that actually took.
So you
really pull this all together.
Yeah, I mean, we started the 15, 17 minutes in, so that's not, it doesn't take too long. So you said that you would give it roughly about 10 minutes just to kind of simmer there and obviously turn it every...
I'm going to like...
I say?
Can you see there?
Yeah, mate, you can see the
right.
sauce really mixed through nicely with that.
So that's starting to break up. I don't know if this is this still on?
Yes. Yeah, buddy.
Let's just try to get, because whenever I flip before, my camera doesn't like work.
All right, I see.
So just my camera freezes, so I can't actually see the live screen.
Oh, we need to try and get you a new camera sorted out then, mate.
Okay. So that's just literally going to simmer away like that. And the only thing that I'll do now is probably just add like a little pinch of salt. Probably towards the end of cooking, because if you put too much salt in just now and it tastes really good, by the time the sauce is reduced a little bit, it's going to go too salty. So last thing I would suggest putting some salt in. But yeah.
Any type of seasoning, would you add that in very last thing, or would that just probably as you go along?
With like the smoked paprika and stuff like that, no, because I want that to cook into the actual sauce. The same with the thyme and the garlic and stuff that's in there.
Right.
Salt is one of those ones. You can add a little bit of salt when you're cooking, but just be like cautious. As I say, because if you add too much in at the start, you can't take it away at the end. And yeah, you don't want to like over season your dish before you've properly tasted it and actually had a wee go at it to see where it's at.
Interesting. Okay.
Yeah. So that way we'll just need a wee bit of salt, and again maybe like another 10 minute cooking. But as I say, eat it with rice, eat it with potatoes, stick on pasta. I've never tried it in pasta, I don't really know. Definitely would work as a heat a filling.
Yeah.
But yeah, if anyone like has a go at it and does something unusual and out there and a bit different, let me know and tell me how it goes.
I think that's a really nice dish to actually give a go. It might just be like, obviously that's the whole point about the episode is to give everyone like the dish of the week to try. Maybe I would say that would be a really good one to check out on the weekend, because I know the Tesco, which is obviously down the road from us, that's the one at the Forge. They do the jackfruit, where you normally tend to get your chickpeas and you get your lentils from when they're canned. So obviously that's directly across from the meat aisle. Now, I'm not wanting to like tell everyone that, and then all of a sudden I try and go down and I can't get a buddy.
So good.
It's definitely the area that you could also source. I wouldn't even mind actually asking one of the people who are in the shop saying, "Hey, do you have any?"
Yeah.
You would normally check.
I mean, I do know that there are other places you can get it. Definitely Asda's had it. They sometimes have it in their like the free from aisle, their vegan section. I know like a lot of supermarkets nowadays have like a big vegan section and all bits and pieces. So they definitely have it. There is a place in the centre of Glasgow called Quality Vitamins and Herbs. They will 100% have it, and they are actually open just now. There's a really good shop actually for finding alternative stuff if you have like allergens. Also just actually quite good for like vitamins and supplements and stuff as well. So
And don't worry, we don't have any type of affiliation with them. There's just a free plug-in for them, Like,
I don't know, but no, my cousin's wife actually works there, and
I'm not shamelessly plugging the shop. It's just because it was really close to Primal.
Yeah.
And if I'd run out of some certain ingredients like spirulina or something that I needed, I would just jump across there because they have everything like that. And they've been in Glasgow for.
No, that's the whole point, mate. Support I would rather support the smaller community rather than just going to like a generic chain. But obviously, we need to keep that into consideration if the conditions that we're in, just luxuriously go walking around wherever we want to go. So. No, I quite enjoyed that episode, mate. I think a lot of people are going to give that jackfruit a blast. I'm still digging all the ones that we've done beforehand, so this can get added to my repertoire of good foods that we can introduce to the family.
Well, this is one from Primal as well. This is when I used to serve the vegan veggie Buddha in Primal. So this is it's a scaled back version of that. But you know, if you want to double this or triple it to make like a big batch to have like 4 or 5 days worth of food in the fridge for like grab and go meals, it'll work pretty perfectly for that. You know.
Dude, I think that's the best way to go. Batch cook. Make sure it's there for a couple of days and just make sure that you can allocate it to set times through the week. You know, how long would you say if it was batch cooked that you would last for 3 to 4 days?
Yeah, 3 or 4 days tops. I would tend to do like 3 or 4 days. This will probably last like that little bit longer because it has vinegar and a little bit of sugar in it.
Yeah.
So obviously vinegar's a natural preservative. It's the same as like salt and meat in bits and pieces. It's the kind of oldest form of preservation when we didn't have fridges in our houses and everything else. So yeah, you'll get a couple of days out of it for sure. It freezes really well. This stuff as well. So if you want to batch it up, freeze some down, it'll last 3 months in your freezer. Happy days.
Looking forward to that, mate. No worries. Well, I mean, that sounds like that's pretty much it on that nice little note.
Again, I feel like I'm kind of cheating because it's a really quick thing to do, but
no, that's the point. The whole purpose of the episode was, or the multiple episodes that we're going to have coming up is they don't take too long. People can watch the show, know how to cook it, know what's the system, and then they go give it a go. But then obviously they can refer back to this and check and see if they've missed out any things, mate. That's excellent. We'll definitely make sure the next show will test the waters and see if it can get super spicy.
It's a good idea because it's still a bit cold at bit. It's warmer today, but like it's still quite kind of like a nice kind of hearty filling thing to sit down and eat a bowl of. So
yeah, dude, nice one. Thanks very much for coming on today, mate. I've really enjoyed that. That's another one in the bag.
And my small chin.
next episode, you're gonna see him with a goatee.
Listen, this is gonna happen. I'll send you the picture because I did like a staged shave when I took it off, and I'll send you the picture of the goatee.
Don't tempt me to edit this video where I'm able to put the screenshots right at the very end. If we get enough requests, I'll make sure that we'll have a montage at the start.
I need a montage.
No worries, man. Right, let's stop this session now. Okay, peace out.